Hello. Hey, Katie, we're on.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I am good. I'm very good, actually.
I know why. It's because I need a better microphone, and you can help me get one if you go to patreon.com/AdamTilted. That's my current goal, um, is to get a better microphone because I'm trying to put it all together so that it'll stand up. Yeah, it's not the
I
best
gotcha.
situation.
I gotcha.
All right, so Katie, invisible disabilities. Do you mind just talking about how we came about being here right now talking about this?
Yeah, not at all. I don't mind. Adam and I have been friends for a couple of years now, which just blows my mind that time's gone so fast. But, you know, I knew that Adam had shared that he has, issues with a balance disorder, and I knew he had been in a wheelchair, and I knew he kind of struggled. So, I instantly started paying attention, not because of that, because he shared on his good days and his bad days. And he shared as openly and honestly as possible. And that I can connect with because that's how I roll. If you know me, you know if it's a good day, you know if it's a bad day. And I'll be honest with you, today was one of those challenging days. And so I have shared with Adam, several things. There's several things there that I have struggled with and continue to struggle with that. If you look at me, you would never know I struggle with anything. However, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and then it is an autoimmune disorder, and it can be debilitating. There are times that I can't even get out of bed, and like this morning, I couldn't hold the brush in my hand for it was driving me nuts. I can't tell you how many times I dropped the brush, I dropped the blow dryer.
Oh,
If
that
I
must be so frustrating.
if you knew how many blow dryers I have broken because I couldn't hold it in my hand and it hit the floor. Things like, this sounds really trivial, but when we first moved up here and we were buying our first home and we were buying a stove and I wanted that beautiful glass top stove in the worst way. I mean, I wanted that stove and I almost had Miller convinced until he turned to the woman and said, just curious, how easily does this top break? And she said, well, I mean, it doesn't break that easy, but if like you drop like a ceramic coffee mug on it or something, it'll probably crack. And he says, uh-huh. And what does it cost to replace that? She says, well, that's kind of expensive. And he looked at me and said, I'm sorry, honey, but you can't have that because he knew I would drop something on it. And inevitably, and I know it sounds like a trivial thing, but this was one of those fall on the floor crying moments because a week later I had this regular stove and I dropped a coffee mug on it. And what did I do? I chipped the enamel on the white top of my stove and I had a big black mark because I couldn't hold the cup in my hand. So it's little things like that, other people would think, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's just the
Oh,
tip of
yeah.
it. RA will affect, it doesn't, it's not your grandma's arthritis. Yes, it's rheumatoid arthritis. Yes, my joints hurt. But not all of them. And it can attack any organ in my body. Any organ in my body. And
Wow.
so, I didn't have asthma until I was an adult. And it has gotten, probably within the past 5 years, my asthma has gotten increasingly worse. And again, if you know me on Snapchat, you know when I've had a bad asthma day because you hear it in my voice.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear when I can't breathe. You can hear when I'm wheezing. You hear my voice going in and out. And there have been some days where I can't even, yeah, I like Morgan, those glass top stoves. I mean, there's some days it's just really rough. But the biggest one that probably has been, it's funny because if people know you and they know you have rheumatoid arthritis, they give you a little grace, not as much, because they still think, well, you're able to do things, you still dance, you still do things, so you must be fine. But the one thing that it has really attacked has been my eyes. And so I didn't need glasses until I was, I think probably the end of my senior year in high school. I think it was the end of my junior year going into my senior year. And I mean, it wasn't a big deal then. But today, my eyesight is so bad that it was the good news, bad news situation from the eye doctor where he says, well, the good news is, he says, well, let me tell you the bad news. The bad news is that your eyes are so bad that you are considered legally blind without correction. The good news is that your insurance will now pay for the lighter lenses so they're not so thick. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. So I wear contacts all the time, but I can't see at night to drive. And I'm not supposed to drive at night. And do I? In rare circumstances, if I know where I'm at, if it's not raining, if it's not snowing, if it's, there's so many ifs that go with it. But that's probably been the biggest issue for me because I've lost friendships over it.
Yeah, so I was going to just bring that up because we talked about, well, first of all, we should explain what we mean by unseen disabilities. So these are disabilities that you wouldn't know someone had just by looking at them. Like rheumatoid arthritis or chronic migraines or anxiety and depression disorders. Anxiety
is a huge
cancer. One. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make themselves apparent, but can have a huge impact on your ability to function during your day. So that's what we're talking about. I'll use myself as an example. I have a balance disorder that I have to concentrate to keep my balance. And and my brain gets tired. So sometimes I feel like going out, but a lot of times I don't because I'm also seasick feeling. So, it's just, some days I'll have a good day and yay, let's go do something. And then some days it's like, no, sorry, can't go. And if enough of those no, sorry, I can't go line up with an invitation from somebody, then they stop being my friend eventually. They stop inviting me places because they just assume I'm not going to go.
I have a very good friend of mine that, and I feel bad because she was very hurt by it, but she didn't, people don't always understand. I don't think they understand that it's not that you don't want to be with them, that sometimes you desperately want to be with them.
Right.
But example,
you just physically cannot.
Right. If somebody lives really far from me, especially if it's far out in the country from me where there's very little lights, even if it's a dry night, I can't drive out there. And so that's an issue. And so there was a moment where there were some comments made and she said, you have never driven out to me. I can't believe you would never do. I mean, she was really, and I was so devastated. And I'm like, it's not that I don't want to, but when she's asked, my husband's out of the country, I can't. And I can't just you get to a point where you don't want to ask people all the time, so you don't go. Or you do things like you say to your husband, hey, I want to go see Lionel Richie. This is a true story. My best friend Sandy and I go to a concert every summer. The concert that she chose that year was Lionel Richie, and it happened to be at a venue that was an hour away from us, which everyone goes to. It's not a big deal for everybody else.
By the way, Christy says hi.
Christy's here, yes, because I'm hoping to hear from her. An hour away is a big deal. So these are the kind of crazy things that happen because of it. I say to him, hey, this is where we want to go. So your choice is, you can either drive out there and drop us off, because she can't see either, by the way. So you can either drive us out there and drop us off and go do something for, 3-4 hours and then come pick us up, or I can buy you a ticket. And he said, well, how much are the lawn tickets? I said, $24, buy me a ticket. That poor man sat in the rain in 50 degrees because I couldn't see to drive myself out there. And those are the kind of things that we do. And so when somebody loves you and cares about you that much, they make those sacrifices.
Yes.
But people that don't know it, they don't get it. And I know that Christy, there have been times that she hasn't been able to make it to things. And I know there were times, during Snapchat when she was really building, things in her community. And that's when I really got to know her. Hi. That she wasn't able to, to be on. She couldn't log on, and, those are the kinds you don't see. You see how many times though, show of hands, a thumbs up or whatever, how many times have you gone shopping and you've seen somebody pull in a parking spot, a handicap parking spot, and you saw that they had a handicap plate and they got out of the car and as they were walking and you thought, well, why do they have that? They don't need that.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
I get that sometimes.
Right. You have no idea what that's for. I could technically have one. I don't yet. My mother finally just got one.
You should get one.
I haven't got, you'll understand this when I say this. It's one more step of saying,
I know,
I can't do something and I don't want to do that. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. So while you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of realizations that I've had recently that have helped me deal with the fact that people don't get it.
Right. Someone wrote liar.
Wow, that's terrible, Christy.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh man, I cannot even imagine that. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so the first thing that I realized is that I need to give people the benefit of the doubt always. Because I don't know what other people are going through. I don't know what they're going through. Just like people don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
I might be having a really, really bad day, but people can't see that I'm nauseous and I have a migraine and, all that stuff. They can't see that. And so if I lash out, they don't understand. Sorry, you just caught me at a weak moment, right? So I assume that everyone is having a bad day. So if someone, says something rude or cuts off my Uber or in traffic or whatever, she's probably having a bad day. He's having a bad day.
It's funny you say that because that's one of the things I share every Monday at the pantry is that, everybody might not be nice to you, but you don't know what they encountered before they left their house.
Yeah. They might be having a terrible day.
Morgan's threatening people. She's going to take people on for Christy. So
that's not okay.
No, it's not okay. It is not okay. But I've seen people do stuff like that.
Yes.
And so, Christy, you had to have been absolutely devastated when you saw it happen. Angry and hurt at the same time. And
embarrassed.
Yes, there's so many feelings that come in at
vulnerable.
that. Vulnerable, helpless. And so, and how do you handle that?
That's really tough.
It is tough. Oh, well, hello, Ollie. Somebody really missed me today. Can you tell?
I took some notes. Let me just refer to my notes. I have this terrible habit of
all of the above.
Taking notes and then not looking at the notes. I mean, it does help me anyway, because the process of taking notes helps.
So do you find, Adam, that when you are making plans with people, because, I will call people and I want to say, hey, what do you think about doing this or that? Do you find that sometimes you say, this is what I would like to do, and depending how I feel, let's touch base again and see if this works? Because that's how I've lately started doing things. Like tonight, I was going to go do Zumba again tonight. Don't look at me like that. I was going to.
We talked about this already.
I don't feel up to it.
Okay, good. You're making the right decision.
I just don't feel up to it. I thought I could do this. And I have to be honest with you, my fatigue level today, probably because I did not listen to some of the things that my body was probably trying to tell me, and everybody else in the universe and God and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it today. I am so beat that Tom even said, "Do you want me to just take you to dinner tonight?" And I'm like,
Perfect.
"Yeah, yeah, I think so."
Yeah, Scott's bringing home dinner because, see,
Hmm.
I went out to 2 different parties over the weekend,
So you've had a very
including the
busy.
Snapchat meetup, which was really fun. But that is exhausting. It's
It
exhausting.
is.
And so I had to plan in my schedule recovery time. These are recovery days. Don't expect a whole lot to happen during these days.
Right.
And I just had to come to the terms that with that being okay. Because it felt like I was being lazy and slacking off and using my illness as a reason not to do work. But the reality is if I'm going to be useful and productive, I have to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have to give something up in order to experience those social events, and that mean what I'm giving up is time later, where I'm able to where I can't do anything, but it's worth it. So I'm always having to judge, is it worth it or not, physically and emotionally.
How bad am I willing to feel?
Yeah. So we're talking about some of the things that some
Yeah.
people do or say, and they mean well, but it's the wrong thing to do or say. First one we said is about talking about everyone has a
Yes.
cure. But we're going to come back and talk about those comments.
Yes. I'm
Um,
looking and going, yes. Everyone has a cure.
yeah.
Everybody does. And there are some things that, unfortunately, the only way they're curable is if God decided to perform a miracle and cure me himself. And I
Right.
don't doubt
And
that he's not capable of doing that. But at this point in my life, I am not curable.
and the point of the matter for me is I just met you.
Right.
You don't know me or my situation. Don't try to diagnose or suggest treatments for whatever's happening with me. Okay? Because number one,
Or,
I probably
yeah.
tried that. It's been 6 years. You think I didn't try doing yoga to help improve my balance? No, it's just annoying. Don't do that, okay? Don't give suggestions. Now, if the
Hmm.
person says, do you know of anywhere I can find yoga that's modified for people with mobility issues, then
Right.
sure. Then say, yes, I know this thing.
Right.
That's different, see? But don't just, oh, I met you. Oh, you have a balance disorder? You should try being a vegan. Because I became a vegan and I never get sick. Don't do that.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
And it's annoying.
And for me,
It's presumptuous.
for me, especially with an autoimmune, for me, if somebody else is sick, that's a big deal for me because
Me too.
I can't fight that off. And if I get, well, example, I just went through boom, 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 boom. I was sick one right after the other and had the auction in the middle of there. And yeah, as I'm listening, you need to give your body extra time. I haven't had a
Yeah,
moment
and
to recover
sometimes you
yet.
have to just plow through it knowing
Hmm.
that there's going to be a
Right.
big payment due at the end.
Right. So, Christy and I talked about this, and we talked about it with Rebecca as well. Even sometimes the people we love and that do know us, sometimes they'll read things and think, "Oh my gosh, I read this thing, and it is absolutely." I mean, it's cured it cures all these arthritis, or it cures all of these issues. And my thoughts are, first of all, I go to the doctor so often. I mean, so often that they know when I've had my hair colored,
Yeah.
when I haven't.
I educate
They
myself.
know,
I'm well
yeah,
educated on what the options are. And just
yes,
because you saw an
they
article
know,
on Facebook
right.
about something that I read about last year and talked to my doctor about, I know. And again, I know that these people mean well. They want to help, and we appreciate it.
What would help me best is, first of all, if I say I can't do something or I'm not feeling well enough, is there anything I can do to help you?
Yes.
Some of the people that I work with that have known me for years and years have finally just started seeing, hey, would you like me to help you carry that? Because as I'm dropping everything and trying to get in and out of my car, sometimes it's very difficult for me to do, and I can't do. I mean, it's ridiculous. It sounds.
And people
Morgan
don't
spent
offer to help.
yeah, Morgan spent almost a week with me, and it was a good week for me.
Good.
And even
I'm
at that,
jealous. I want to meet Morgan.
and yeah, she's amazing, and she needs to come back. But even at that, she'll tell you, I have to get up early enough to plan for medicines to kick in,
Oh, totally.
or
Yeah,
or
I have to
things
plan my
to
whole day around
right.
even doing a live broadcast. Like,
Yes,
seriously.
yes. So, and we're just touching
Oh, just
the edge of
scratching the
it. There are
surface.
so many unseen disabilities that, I mean, you would never, ever even consider. You'd say, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah, right. I
I mean,
want to
I
talk
had no
about
idea.
checking with some of these comments. So Morgan said we all need to recover. I'm wondering that too.
Mhm.
That is very true. Christy, it's hard to listen to our bodies when our bodies are always telling us you're in pain and you need to rest. I
Christy's like
agree.
saying what my body says.
That's a very good point, because if I wait until I feel good, that will be never.
Hmm.
But
Endometriosis, yes.
it's always about giving up something in exchange.
Mhm.
There's the cost for me doing that. What is that going to be? And for most of the time, it means I'm going to be spending some time in bed, possibly with a headache, whatever. So that's always part of the equation for me. And meeting
Right.
you for an hour downtown for happy hour, if the cost of that,
Right.
because that also involves the traveling and all that, if the cost of that is a half a day in bed,
You
that's a
know,
close
our
call, you know?
our soldiers have some of the most traumatic, unseen disabilities. I cannot
Yes.
even begin to explain to you how, I mean, just things like the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah, I can
The 4th of
imagine.
the
The
4th of
sound of all
July,
those fireworks,
the 4th of
explosions.
July is not a good day around here.
Yeah.
It is not a good day around here.
Well, and
So,
thanks for bringing that up, because
mhm.
we didn't explicitly mention mental health.
Oh,
But
that's a whole other realm of, but sometimes is married in with some of these others
exactly.
because
Exactly.
depression can hit you and anxiety about how you're going to be. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, Morgan and I were joking about it last night on a live about flying because flying is one of those things for me. Once I'm up, I'm good. But for me, it's the whole anxiety of planning through everything that there's sometimes that I'm like, okay, you need to talk me down because I'm about ready to go over, meeting up at a pool hall. Yes. Abrupt noises. Morgan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can have PTSD from things that you would not even imagine would cause PTSD. Did
Well,
you know that
and so
a
people with
child going
social
through,
anxiety experience
yeah,
similar symptoms. I have
yes,
social anxiety, so
mhm.
if I'm in a crowd of people and there's a loud noise, then I immediately think I'm being trampled to death.
A child who's been through a terrible divorce or a situation where they found themselves homeless and in a food pantry line, things like that, that can cause a PTSD in a child that you would just not even imagine.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
you can't tell. You don't see it. How about your disabilities like OCD?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is there are so many that the chances are that any random person that you are interacting with has one of these themselves or is a
Right.
caregiver for someone.
Hmm.
Just go in with a soft touch. And that's the best advice anyway, because look, if they're having a great day and you assume they're having a bad day,
Right.
then great, you're pleasantly surprised. And I told that to my Uber driver the other day, and she was just so surprised because she said, "Why would you assume everyone's having a bad day?" And I said, "Because I consider it my job to make their day better somehow. Somehow,
Right.
if it's a
Right.
smile or a
Empathy.
conversation or a compliment or you did a great job folding my wheelchair, whatever."
Right.
I wish more people would do that. Make it your mission to assume that everyone means well.
Assume that everyone means well. So, you hear me say all the time, lead with love. Lead with
Yes,
love.
that's a good way. That's a
So
better way to say it.
whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, come from it from a place where your heart is pure and you mean well. And if you don't understand and you don't know something, ask. And I do this all the time because I deal with so many people. I work in a nonprofit. I deal with people that have, anything from physical, mental, illnesses, chronic illnesses, all kinds of different things have put people where they're at. I have to automatically, no matter what I do, I have to lead with love and come from a place of love. So from my point of meeting everybody, the first thing that I'm going to say, even if I have to ask them not to do something, I'm going to usually, good morning, how are you? Would you mind? Could I ask you? And if I don't understand something, I'll say to them, you know what? I'm a question person, and if I don't understand, I would rather ask a question than to offend somebody, and I always say it that way.
Oh,
Me too. So I will say, example, I have a volunteer who's blind. You guys, some of you have seen her, and which, by the way, I hope she's listening to this.
If you are, hi, and thanks for volunteering.
If she is, I'll be really excited.
Volunteers are awesome.
I just mailed in paperwork to volunteer her for the city of Warren they do a yearly volunteer thing. Yeah, I just mailed her in. I did.
Nice. So, you go volunteer.
She has been through so much in the past year. She was in a wheelchair for quite a long time. She had an infection in her toe, and because she couldn't see it, she didn't know how bad it was.
Wait, hold on. Do you think she would be willing to come on the show and talk about that?
I don't know. I'll ask her.
Ask her. And then if not, then next time you can tell us about it as much as she...
And if she is, she might be willing if I maybe went over and sat with her.
Yeah.
So...
Exactly.
So I will talk with her and ask her.
Because that would be interesting. I want to hear from as many different people who experience disabilities, visible or unseen, because sharing our experiences is how we change the world.
I have gotten to a point of treating her so absolutely just like everybody else that there are times, and it's funny now, she kind of laughs at me and she makes jokes about it. Her job on Mondays is to pass out cards, a card, one per family or however many families they have, they get for food, they get a card. So we'll say, Tammy, please hand her 2 cards. And so she can feel to do that. Well, those cards have numbers on it that mean nothing to anybody but me. And that tells me how many people I've served. I can't tell you how many times I walked in and go, Tammy, what's our next number? And she'll go, which one do you want me to make up? And then she starts laughing. I'm like,
because you forget that she can't see the numbers. I forgot,
right? Yeah. And she said to me, and it was the one thing that really hit home. She said, Katie, that is my favorite thing that ever happens, because for that, 4-hour period when we're volunteering, she doesn't feel like she's the blind girl.
You're not thinking of me as the blind person.
When you can do that for somebody, you're empowering them.
Absolutely.
And so I wish more people could do that. I would love to hear from Christy what the number one thing is that she wishes people would do for her. For me, I got to be honest with you. Just help me out. I mean, if you see if I'm struggling to get through whatever it is I'm doing, help me out. Sometimes Samantha will go, do you want me to blow dry your hair for you? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I have this curly,
it's nice every once in a while, and I can do it myself, but if someone else does it for me, that means I can use that energy for something else that's more fun. Yeah. So, definitely. I would love to have Christy on again, so.
I would.
Be fun.
I know. I just love her. I love her. You guys, I get to meet Christy and Adam in June, and Rebecca.
I'm so excited.
Morgan's going to as well. She's just hasn't quite gotten it yet.
Houston, the place to be.
Never thought it. See, and Morgan just said something. She said she mentioned that she went to a Jenga bar with a former Marine, and those large Jengas, when they fall, it makes a big noise. And she said it was wrecking for him. She said she never thought it or noticed his demeanor changed or anything until it hit her. There are things that I hadn't noticed right away, and then I started noticing.
Oh my gosh.
Even about,
welcome to my life.
Yeah.
Things that people don't pay any attention to destroy me.
Even about my husband, there are places and things that he does. He likes to sit on the end of an aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Always. He wants to face an exit. You know, and you know, I can watch him scan a room when we come in. And those are things that I'm so used to now. Well, example, you know, I'm on staff at a church. And so we talk about, hey, you know, we really want, you know, the ushers to encourage moving people to the front, fill the front and to the back, which makes sense.
Yes. But nobody wants to sit in the front. They all want to sit in the back.
Right. And they don't, and move them all the way to the end. And I finally had to say at one point, guys, there are some people that you can't do that with, and you have to understand that and give them grace. So we changed that conversation to, we like to try to fill up the front in this. Would you mind sitting up there? Is that okay? Or, you know, basically,
I want to pop up Christy's comment. Literally
Distracted.
always hers. Yeah, I have resting bitch face because I'm usually in pain. So
people think I'm mad.
Yeah. Or people think that I'm a jerk or a snob. Scott thought that. That was his first impression of me, that I was a jerk.
I can't tell you how many people have thought I was stuck up and they'd never met me. And if you'd had a chance to talk to me, I am probably the least stuck up, judgmental person you'll ever meet in your entire life. I
get that a lot. I get that a lot too. Well, Katie, this has been really fun, and I hope it has been informative to...
I hope it has for everyone, too.
Everyone, and there's a lot more to discuss on this topic, so keep the comments coming in. We will be responding as we can, and we would love to have another conversation about this in the future, so if you would like to be a part of that, let us know. Don't forget that you can sponsor the show at patreon.com/AdamTilted. Because I'm not just wanting a microphone, by the way. This was an idea that was brought up that I think is brilliant. Probably should do before the microphone is get a GoPro so that people can see what it's like for me in the chair. Because I can't film. For example, when I was at the Snapchat meetup, the door to the bathroom, that whole situation was impossible because there was the tile in there was raised up off the floor just about this much. That's all it takes. I can't.
And you couldn't get over
roll the chair across that. I have to pop a wheelie, which means I need both hands. Which means how am I going to hold the door open at the same time?
Right. And then that puts you in that situation where you have to ask somebody.
Now I have to go ask somebody.
Can you help me?
Yeah. Now, fortunately, I do have use of my leg, so I was able to use my leg to hold the door open while I pop myself in. But it would be great to have a GoPro camera on so that people could see what it's like trying to struggle to open those doors. And, there's a ramp, but guess what? There's a booby trap at the bottom. Ha ha. You know.
Is it bad that I want a GoPro to put on my dog?
That would be fun.
Would a pair of spectacles help you in some circumstances?
Yeah, but I don't think
I mean, a GoPro would be better.
I wouldn't wear spectacles.
Okay.
They look too ridiculous for me. I can't.
I got a pair and I thought the same thing. And I've used them a couple times, but I have to tell you, the comments that I got based on the snaps at the pantry were incredible because they absolutely do get a crisper, clearer, different view than I could have imagined. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. So I think I'll do that again on Monday and let you see that. I was really shocked by it. I don't know if I would want a camera rolling all the time, but there are those moments
Oh,
that you
no.
just want to
No,
say,
but I would
hey,
love to be able to switch on the camera when I'm trying to go into the bathroom just to show people what,
mm-hmm.
because I know where the difficult spots are going to be.
Well,
And
and for
the thing
me,
is that the really frustrating thing is that this restaurant probably thinks it is completely compliant with ADA. They have a handicap stall. They have a ramp leading up to there. But the door is dysfunctional and the ramp is dysfunctional. I want to be able to show that, but I really need either someone
it
else
is,
filming me or like I don't know. Spectacles might. Oh, spectacles. They look so dorky.
they're better if they're black. So, and Adam, let's face it, if you do anything with enough confidence, who cares?
Well, it's true. That's true. That's true. I'll have to
I mean, really,
compare the cost of Right now, I've earned
I have a
$23, so
hunch.
I don't think I can get either a spectacles or a GoPro yet.
I have a hunch I might be able to find a way to get a pair in your hands. So we'll
Okay,
talk.
well, that would be awesome. That would be
Um,
awesome because I really want to start showing that because when I talked about it on my story, I got a lot of conversations started
right.
about
Right.
that, particularly from people in construction.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying things like, yeah, that's a ramp like I probably would have made.
You know, I'm
And
glad
you
you mentioned though
pointed
about
something out.
the building being compliant. And so that is one of the reasons that we are building a new church, why we have bought property to build a new church, because our church, well, the building is awesome and it's very big and it's functional. There's a lot of things there. We have a ramp to go up. So yeah, you can come in the sanctuary. However, probably more than 50% of the activity takes place on the lower level. So there's 2 flights of stairs to go down.
Yeah.
There's no elevator. The bathrooms are not big enough for wheelchairs. They're just not, I mean, there's so many things
Well, now that I'm
that,
excited about I hadn't even considered spectacles just because I had crossed them off my list as being too dorky, but I also realized I don't have to wear them all the time.
right. So you would just put them on when you want to.
And Morgan brings up
And
a good point. I'm not going to look any cooler with GoPro strapped all over to my forehead or chair or whatever.
no, not unless you're doing like extreme wheelchair. And that's not my thing. So you guys, if more than anything, if you take anything away from this, Adam and I just want you to know, and this was not to say, oh, poor me, and complaining.
Oh, no.
That has nothing to do with it. Because I will be honest with you, there is very little that stops me other than when my body says, all right, halt, because I keep going,
Yeah.
But here's what we want you to take away. There's a whole world of people around you that are hurting physically, emotionally. There's just so many things that are happening, and take a moment and lead with love and extend grace every time. It is so much easier to extend grace. And sometimes that means you might apologize for something you didn't do or didn't know you did. And it doesn't matter.
Are
What
you seeing
matters
this comment
is,
from Morgan?
no.
Hey,
When a friend
Katie,
says, hey,
maybe
Katie,
take it
maybe take it
easy.
easy. Yes,
Because
I
there's
hear,
that too.
yeah.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you,
there is.
Morgan. Because
Thank you.
you got to help me because she's doing too much.
So I'm not going to Zumba tonight. And so those are the things that, and I'm sure Christy has things with that too. You think you can do it because you're always in pain. You push through. And so I know that I'm always in pain. So sometimes it's hard for me to determine how much of that is from the RA and how much of that is because I had a long day and was exercising or this or that,
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, if anybody sees me on the ground whimpering, I need help because I'm so sore. I'm so sore today. between my own body and that Zumba class that I took yesterday, I'm like, oh my gosh. I went to sit down today and I went,
Christy, everybody
Everybody.
hurts.
I love it.
Sometimes.
Okay, that was worth the whole show.
Sometimes everything is wrong. Katie, again, thank you for having this conversation with me. Thank you guys for stopping by. This was fun, interesting, and hopefully informative. I am your Jizzy Dude, Adam Tilted. And this is Katie. Katie, where can people learn more about you?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm Katie Miller. You can find
Tagged
me
in this
on
post.
Instagram, Katie S. Miller 1203, I think.
Okay.
I just changed it, so forgive me. It's Katie S. Miller on Twitter. It's Katie S. Miller on Snapchat.
Snapchat. Yep. All right.
Snapchat is where you're going to find me mostly.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you later. Until we see you again, be nice to each other.
Be nice to each other always.